The prayer this morning will be offered by the good delegate from Frederick County.
Great Counselor, we pray for your wisdom, your grace, your mercy, your compassion. You are the almighty delegate. You have entrusted us to take care of the least, the lost, the last, and the left out. We have promised to leave no one behind. Like a mother hen, you give us warmth, shelter, security, comfort, and care. We can do more collectively together. Please help us to love and care for our neighbor, for one another. We ask you to give strength and wisdom and fortitude to our Madam Speaker and our leadership. We thank you for the love and the compassion that you have given us, and it is in this day that we will do great things. Amen.
Amen. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 137 members present, the House is now in session. So ordered petitions, memorials, and other papers. House resolutions. Recognizing the sponsor to introduce. Okay, it switched on me.
Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, colleagues. Permission request to use delegates' names.
Permission granted.
On behalf of Speaker Pro Tem Cherie Sample Hughes, Delegate Vanessa Atterbury, Delegate Sandy Bartlett, Delegate Terry Hill, Delegate Pam Queen, Delegate Kim Taylor, Delegate Karen Toles, Delegate Jennifer White, Delegate Janelle Wilkins, and myself, today it is our honor and privilege to welcome members of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority International to the state capitol. Members in the gallery, please stand. Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority is the first intercollegiate historically black sorority and was founded on January 15, 1908 at the historically black college, Howard University, by a group of 16 students led by Ethel Hedgeman Lyle. Forming a sorority broke barriers for black women in areas where we had little power or authority due to a lack of opportunities for minorities and women in the early 20th century. Today, our sorority is comprised of more than 355,000 initiated members in graduate and undergraduate chapters located in 12 countries and is led by International President and CEO Danette Anthony Reed of Dallas, Texas. One of our most notable members is Vice President Kamala Harris. Our mission has continued to be one of service and mankind. We cultivate and encourage high scholastic and ethical standards. We promote unity and friendship among college women. We encourage women to maintain a progressive interest in college life. And most of all, we are committed to the mission of service to all mankind. Today, receiving the resolution is Ingrid Watson. She is the North Atlantic Region State Coordinator for Connection and Social Action. Welcome. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full as the AKA members come up?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated in recognition of your continued advocacy on statewide issues and participation in the Alpha Kappa Alpha Day at the Capitol. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion to be presented on this 28th day of February 2023.
Great group of people. Let the short people get in the front. Come on, guys, let them in. She's too little behind there. Councilmember. She's the director. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I know, I understand. She's completely covered up. Sandy, get in there. Come on, Sandy. Somebody get in the front. There's not much room up there either. No. There's not like layers and layers of. Look at Kim's like, should I touch the speaker? Yeah, that's his second time. Did you know him before?
No, we just took pictures with him last time and think I'm supposed to meet with him sometime later this week. Oh, I gotta ask his college players.
Recognizing the sponsor to introduce our next group.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Good delegate from Baltimore County.
Thank you very much. It is my absolute honor today to welcome 3 Desert Storm veterans and today to celebrate what marks the 32nd anniversary of the ordered ceasefire of Operation Desert Storm, a complete victory for the United States and coalition forces. And it starts off with my very first guest. Today also marks 40 years to the day that Sergeant Jim Ayers entered the United States Air Force at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. He landed in Saudi Arabia on his 29th birthday on October 10th, 1990, and served throughout the war. He was assigned to the Provisional Air Wing, which provided air refueling support for the KC-135 tankers stationed at the airport in Jeddah. The tanker fleet, sorry if I'm pronouncing these parts of the country wrong here, but the tanker fleet made invaluable contributions to the success of Operation Desert Storm by flying around-the-clock missions to maintain operability of Allied warplanes. Thank you, Jim. Our second guest today is Carmelo Janko, who I've had the pleasure of meeting all these individuals, by the way. Assigned to United States Army's 7th Corps, he led the spearhead that fought in the Battle of Norfolk against the Iraqi elite Republican Guard. He engaged the enemy in numerous firefights while methodically clearing an extensive bunker complex. He helped reach their final objective on February 28th in 1991, traveling over 280 miles in just 72 hours. They helped destroy 65 armored vehicles and 10 artillery pieces while capturing over 300 prisoners. And finally, Sergeant Alex Kelly, at age just 19, was one of 40,000 women that made up the largest deployment of women in combat at the time. This led to the expansion of combat roles for women in all branches of the military. Her company fell under the company of the 22nd Support Command, who only activated during wartime and during Desert Storm was comprised of approximately 73% reservists and National Guardsmen. All 3 of these Operation Desert Storm veterans have been heavily involved in the creation of funding and soon completion of a National Desert Shield and Desert Storm War Memorial located, which will soon be at the corner of 23rd and Constitution Avenue on the Mall in Washington, D.C., and dedication is set for Veterans Day 2024. And Madam Speaker, I just wanted to, this just was brought to my attention, permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you. And any other delegate that may be a veteran, Delegate Wilson, it was just brought to my attention, is also a veteran of Desert Storm. And thank you to any other veterans that may be in the body as well. And thank you to you three for being here today. We honor you.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to U.S. Army Sergeant Alex Kelly, U.S. Air Force retired Master Sergeant James William Ayers, U.S. Army retired Sergeant First Class Carmelo Frank Genko, Jr., in recognition of your distinguished patriotic service in Operation Desert Storm on this 32nd anniversary of the ceasefire. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 28th day of February 2023.
Recognizing the sponsor to introduce our next group. Gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good morning, colleagues. It is an honor for me to introduce to you the very best cross-country runners, not just in Towson, not just in Baltimore County, but in the entire state of Maryland. Please join me in welcoming to the House floor the 2022 state champions in both women's and men's cross country, the mighty student athletes from Towson High School. In the gallery, team members are joined by their principal, Charlene Domino, and Towson High Athletic Director, Justin Nash. On the rostrum, team captains and leaders, Isabel Aldana and Ryan Waller. Joining them are two fantastic teachers and coaches. Coach Linda McShane has been coaching the Generals for 6 successful seasons, the first 2 as a parent volunteer coach. She joined the faculty at Towson High 4 years ago and is a dedicated social studies teacher specializing in U.S. history and government. Coach Gil Stang is a lifelong General, having run for Towson High when he attended school there. He followed in his father's footsteps and became a career Baltimore County public school educator. Mr. Stang has been teaching social studies at Towson High School and coaching for 32 years. Students know when you get Mr. Stang's name on your schedule, you've won the teacher lottery. While we are so proud of this team and their amazing athletic achievements, we are also incredibly proud that they received the Sportsmanship Award at the state championship meet. Please join me in congratulating these runners and their coaches as we celebrate them today.
Will the reading clerk please read the resolution in full?
Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Towson High School Women's 2022 cross-country team in recognition of winning the Women's 2022 State Cross Country Championship. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 28th day of February 2023. Be it hereby known to all that the House of Delegates of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the Towson High School Men's 2022 Cross Country team in recognition of winning the Men's 2022 State Cross Country Championship. The entire membership extends best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution to be presented on this 28th day of February 2023.
Report of the Committee on Appropriations, report number 1. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 65, Education, Public Libraries, Collective Bargaining. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker, amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes technical changes regarding the roles of the governing body of a county, the Board of Trustees, and the Director of a public library system, and applies the bill to the entire state. This amendment does not impact the compilation of any existing collective bargaining units, nor does it impact ongoing collective bargaining negotiations or existing collective bargaining agreements. Be so much speed to reading of the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 366, Maryland School for the Blind, Public School Construction Program. Eligibility. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 368, State Personnel, Executive Branch Service Contracts, Policy, Certification, and Notification. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes most of the bill and requires that an exclusive representative receive a copy of a certification from a procuring department. This provision only applies to contracts valued at $10 million or above. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Questions now is to adopt the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing John Lay from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader rise, please?
Floor leader.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I was obviously listening carefully, and you said struck the bill and added some. Can you tell us what the bill does now, please?
Absolutely. So currently, for any organized unit to be privatized in the state of Maryland, currently there has to be 60 days notice given to their exclusive representative, where at that point that those employees can petition management to find other cost-saving ways instead of privatizing. What the amendment does, essentially says, is that for contracts $10 million or more at non-state operated facilities, there will be a certification notice. So what happens is the Board of Public Works, when they approve a contract of $10 million or more, they will certify it. It won't give the union, the exclusive representative, any time to change that, but it'll give more time to state employees whose jobs are about to be privatized to just know, hey, this is coming, so you don't show up to work and your job doesn't exist anymore.
And can you tell us what does this apply to? Which departments? You said just within the executive branch. So what departments are we talking about?
It's only service contracts over $10 million. So we're going to continue to study this bill over the interim. As the bill is introduced, essentially wanted more notice for all contracts, but DGS anticipated that could be over 14,000 contracts. They weren't exactly sure, so we set it at $10 million or more because those are contracts that are going to come before Board of Public Works. There's going to be a lot of attention around them anyway while we continue to study it.
Great. Sounds like a great amendment. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader.
Thank you.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered for third reading, printing. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 388, bond sales, notification to the public, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 397, state investment portfolio, investment thresholds, alterations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from St. Mary's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader please rise? Maybe I'll answer a couple questions on this bill.
Floor leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. What this bill does is sets the thresholds that the asset class is for each investment in which the state treasurer is authorized to invest or reinvest unexpended money or surplus money. What it also does, it allows the maximum threshold of 10% of total investments for investments the state treasurer makes in the commercial paper or assets. And these are short-term promissory notes. And also, the state treasurer must also provide local government with an opportunity to review and also revise and report any changes in the local government policies appropriate.
Okay, I appreciate that information. Would you mind if I held this bill until the appropriate time for a possible amendment?
Till tomorrow?
To the appropriate time?
That's fine. Tomorrow's fine.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question before the House is to special order this bill to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
Also 428, University System of Maryland Board of Regents student member grant, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 541, State Retirement and Pension System, non-vested former members, return of accumulated contributions, favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much to be considered, the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment 1 is technical. Amendment 2 alters the definition of earnable income so that lump sum payments that represent retroactive pay increases to one or more classes of employees are not pensionable. The amendment also provides a specific list of positions in state government that automatically vest. This list replaces existing language that describes the positions that qualify for this benefit. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation. Report number 2. The clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 30, Environment On-Site Wastewater Services, Board Fees and Penalties, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader rise for a question?
Sure.
Good morning.
Floor leader.
Thank you. The bill talks about, and it seems like there's a change that says for the purpose of property transfer. So could you just briefly explain the bill, what it's changing, and maybe just give me a brief overview of what the law is and why this change is occurring?
Well, last year we passed legislation requiring a license for those doing property transfer inspections of septic systems, and so we just want, there's apparently some ambiguity in the language from last year about when that licensing requirement applies. So this bill just clarifies that that licensing requirement applies only to those individuals conducting an inspection for the purpose of property transfer.
So, okay, it's pretty clear what a property transfer is. What if somebody's just doing an inspection on a house that's already purchased and maybe the system's failing or maybe there's some concerns? How does that licensing and provisions apply, or does it not apply to this section of the law?
Those aren't covered.
Those are not covered.
Correct.
Okay. So with the property transfers, and last question, and I may hold the bill, but just I wanted, so during property transfers, one of the things we're running into on the Eastern Shore is there's obviously, with the market being hot, a lot of property transfers. I'm sure banks are requesting and requiring inspections to be done. Do you believe that there are sufficient numbers of inspectors to adjudicate these inspections, and do you think the quality of the inspections that they conduct once they get there are of the variety where they can actually get an honest assessment of if the system's failing or if the system just needs to be repaired as opposed to being completely replaced? Do you feel like we have the right infrastructure for that sort of dynamic effort?
In general, regarding the supply of qualified inspectors, my understanding is yes, but the purpose of last year's legislation was to provide a licensing process to make sure that those individuals who are doing inspections of septic systems when there is a property transfer are licensed and so therefore properly trained and qualified.
Thank you, Mr. Floor Leader. Madam Speaker, I'd like to hold the bill. It's just because I believe that we have some issues on the Eastern Shore that would cause me to want to pay closer attention
You
to the
mean
bill.
special order the bill?
Yes, ma'am, for the purpose of amendment.
Until the appropriate time tomorrow, we're fine.
Question for the House is the special order HB 30 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered until tomorrow. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 71, motor vehicles, school vehicle drivers, medical examinations, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 92, ground leases, collection of rent, interest, fees, and other expenses, registration requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 93, residential ground leases, redemption, and extinguishment requirements, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 104, municipalities, charter amendments, notice, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 262, abandoned vehicles, secured parties, electronic notification, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 386, natural resources, blue and flathead catfish, finfish, trout line license establishment, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 406, hunting, snares, traps, and other similar devices, identification requirement, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 516, agriculture, use of antimicrobial drugs, reporting deadlines, favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 567, residential property, affordable housing land trust, authority to establish condominium regimes, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Environment and Transportation, report number 3. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 20, vehicle laws, horse riding, helmet requirements for minors, favorable amendments, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
The amendment alters the application of the prohibition by applying it to a facility for which the primary purpose is recreational, educational, or competitive equestrian activities. Move the amendment.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 101, condominiums, common elements, clean energy equipment, favorable amendments, amendment number 1.
Madam Speaker,
Recognizing the floor leader.
move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the definition of clean energy equipment and limits the types of interest that may be granted by a board of directors on the council of unit owners to leases accessing 1 year. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 102, real property, actions for possession, pet protections, favorable amendments, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 alters the information a landlord or the judiciary must supply about the Department of Agriculture's fact sheet in a lease or a warrant of restitution issued for landlord-tenant actions for wrongful detainer action. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 118, ground leases, notices and billing, forms and requirements, favorable amendments, amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
The committee amendment clarifies that the forms produced by SDAT are the forms for a ground rent leaseholder must use for a notice to provide for a leasehold tenant under the previously provisions covered by the bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 123, Vehicle Laws, HOV Lanes, Plug-in Electric Drive Vehicles. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 alters the termination date to be September 30, 2025 to conform with federal law. Amendment number 2 authorizes rather than requires certain consultation to design the permit. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Recognizing the gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I appreciate it. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, if I may, to the floor leader. Good morning.
Madam Speaker?
Floor leader.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Good
Madam
morning.
Speaker. Good morning. I noticed it was the bill was amended, and I guess my understanding is the bill deals with electric vehicles driving in HOV lanes. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, so do you get to drive in the HOV lanes all the time, including high traffic times
Yes.
with your electric vehicle? Do you have to pay to use those HOV lanes?
You have to buy the permit, yes. It can be charged, the fee can be up to $20.
So the fee is $20 for an electric vehicle to use the HOV lanes all the time, 24/7, provided that you have an electric vehicle. Is that right?
Yes.
So, but you could be charged up to $20. What is it for a non-electric vehicle? What is the charge, I mean?
This applies to all plug-in vehicles.
Okay.
So that's what this bill is. Are you talking about non-plug-in vehicles currently?
Yeah, if you don't have an electric vehicle, for whatever reason, maybe you just can't afford one, and you want to use the HOV lanes, excuse me, then what would be the charge, the comparable charge for a non-electric vehicle to use those HOV lanes 24/7? Do we know?
If you have 2 or more people, if that's how it's designated, there isn't a charge.
Okay, so the bill gives preference, 123, House Bill 123, HOV lanes, plug-in electric drive vehicles, gives the electric vehicles preference over other vehicles with respect to not just the type of vehicle, but how many people you have in the vehicle.
I don't know that I'd call it preference, but it allows them to drive in it if they purchase this permit.
Could I look at this bill for the purposes of an amendment? Would that be okay with you, please?
One day. Tomorrow?
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Madam Speaker, move to special order this bill to the appropriate time tomorrow.
The question for the House is to special order HB 123 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered till tomorrow. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 152, Department of Agriculture, Urban Agricultural Grant Fund. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Be so much consider the reading of the amendments, Madam Speaker.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As amended, the bill alters provisions of the law relating to urban agricultural grant programs in the Department of Agriculture. Among other things, the bill expands the existing urban agriculture grant program and fund to apply statewide. It also expands eligibility for receiving grants under the fund. Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 alters a definition, repeals a requirement that the department adopt certain regulations to implement the grant program, and instead establishes an advisory committee to make recommendations on the implementation of the program, and alters the amount appropriated to the fund under the bill. Amendment number 3 makes conforming changes to provisions under the Urban Agriculture, Water, and Power Infrastructure Grant Program, and alters the effective date of the bill. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Kind of weak. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 161, Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority, Evaluation and Termination of Bond Authority, Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority Sunset Act. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
As amended, the bill terminates the Northeast Maryland Waste Disposal Authority's bond authority beginning June 1, 2023, and requires the Department of Legislative Services to conduct an evaluation of the authority. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 removes the Maryland Clean Energy Center from the bill, requires any entity that may take up the authority's services to establish a system for stakeholder engagement, and ensures continuity of services during any merger of the authority and another entity. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report has been adopted. Are there any additional
Madam Speaker.
amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam Speaker.
General Lady from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the floor leader just rise for a moment and answer a few quick
Floor leader.
questions? Thank you
Sure.
so much, sir. How are you doing?
Good.
So I see in the testimony here, I just pulled up that there was some opposition from my county executive. Could you tell me a little bit about, it seems a little complicated. So his concern seems to be that the authority currently provides a voice for the county, for our county specifically, and acts in the interest of its members, and he believes that this bill will somehow change that.
Well, this bill just requires a study as to the effectiveness, efficacy of the authority. It doesn't preordain any particular outcome with respect to its future.
Okay.
But it is to make recommendations to the legislature.
Okay, all right, so we're not making any final decisions yet. We'll look into it and then get back to us in a few years.
Correct.
Okay, and can you tell me again when that deadline is?
Stand by. December 1, 2024.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 182, Real Property Unlawfully Restrictive Covenants Modification by Municipalities. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Move so much be the reading of the amendment.
So ordered.
As amended, the bill authorizes a county or a municipality to execute and record a restrictive covenant modification to an unlawfully restrictive covenant on the subject property is within the boundaries of the county or municipality as specified by the requirements are satisfied. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 authorizes counties to execute and record a restrictive covenant modification to an unlawfully restrictive covenant subject to the provision of the bill. Move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 188, Natural Resources Wildlife Advisory Commission Membership. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Be so much consider the reading of the amendment, Madam Speaker.
So ordered.
Thank you. As amended, HB 188 requires the governor to adopt the Wildlife Advisory Commission, one member who is an academic researcher with expertise in wildlife biology, wildlife conservation, wildlife management, and ecology. The bill also adds to an existing requirement that the commission include representation from the farming community by also requiring that the commission include representation from the hunting community, the wildlife preservation community, and the passive wildlife recreation community. Committee amendments adds a member to the commission and provides for the staggered terms of commission members. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. There are any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just had a question for my friend, the floor leader.
Floor leader.
I read the original fiscal and policy note about the bill, and it said that in addition, as part of the element of including the farming community in the commission, they were going to add a designated representative of both the hunting and the fishing committees, or communities, excuse me. But what I thought you just said that the amendment only talked about the hunting community as opposed to those two. Was the fishing community, the original part of the bill, was that taken out?
So the original bill actually says the hunting or the fishing communities. The fishing communities was removed.
Okay, so there wouldn't be anyone, I don't know what you define as a fishing community. I live in Western Maryland. We don't do that much fishing. But I know fishing is a very big part of particularly the Eastern Shore and the Chesapeake Bay regions and even up through Baltimore City, Baltimore County that have a lot of waterways. Is there a particular reason why the committee elected to not specifically designate someone from a fishing community to be included on this Wildlife Advisory Commission?
Well, I think it was the prerogative of the group presenting, but I would also say that there are two other fishery advisory commissions. One is the Sports Fishery Advisory Commission that has 17 members, and one member that must be a part of that must be a member of the Tidal Fisheries Commission, and then there's a Tidal Fisheries Commission that has 16 members that also has to have a member from the Sports Fishery Advisory Commission.
Wow, it sounds like we have a lot of commissions.
Absolutely, for fish.
For a lot of commissions for fish, a lot of commissions for everything, I think, here in Maryland. We're a little over-commissioned probably. But this particular Wildlife Advisory Commission, do you have any idea as to what the rationale, the bill seems to suggest that we needed to add beyond the dialogue we just had about the hunting or fishing representative from the farming community, sort of drilling down within that farming community. What's the rationale for adding the new member? You said it's someone that has an academic background in a particular discipline. Was there some particular reason that the Wildlife Advisory Commission had recommended that, hey, we need more expertise, or?
It was to make it an odd number for the commission.
So we've
got
have
9 voting members, and then you've got the one person who's the researcher expert.
When we designed the commission the first time, we neglected to figure that out, that you could wind up having a blocked vote. Okay, thank you for your information.
You're
I appreciate
quite welcome.
Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Seeing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 389, Department of Agriculture, State Ombudsman for Value-Added Agriculture. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Be so much consider the reading of the amendments, Madam
So
Speaker.
ordered.
As amended, the bill establishes the state specialist for value-added agriculture as a position in the Maryland Department of Agriculture. Committee Amendment number 1 makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 alters the title of the new position to be the state specialist for value-added agriculture and clarifies the definition of value-added agriculture, including by adding language to clarify that the various equine services fall under the specialist purview. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 465, Natural Resources, Recreational Crabbing License Exemption. Favor the amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Be so much consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As amended, HB 465 authorizes a person younger than age 16 to use a collapsible net ring, hang line, or dip net while crabbing in the Chesapeake Bay or its tidal tributaries without a recreational crabbing license. Committee amendments. The amendments are the bill. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is the adoption of favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Health and Government Operations, report number 4. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 63, Certified Local Farm and Chesapeake Invasive Species Provider Program Establishment. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and it adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 alters the name of the program to be Certified Local Farm and Fish Program, requires the Office of the Certified Local Farm and Fish Program to submit certain annual consolidated report to the Maryland General Assembly committees on the program's implementation and participation, and alters the effective date of the bill from October 1 to July 1. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 124, Mandated Reports, Revisions. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 repeals the requirement that the Maryland Higher Education Commission compile, submit, and publish certain reports. As the Maryland Longitudinal Data System Center advises, this report duplicates another report made by the center but retains MHEC's role in collecting the data from institutions of higher education. Amendment number 3 alters reporting dates for reports from the Maryland Commission on Climate Change, the Department of the Environment, the Bay Restoration Fund Advisory Committee, the Office of Recycling, and moves an ongoing reporting requirement for the Department of the Environment from uncodified language into the code. Amendment number 4 alters the dates for reporting of certain information by the Maryland 911 Board. Amendment number 5 modifies the reporting requirements to allow Maryland Legal Services Corporation to submit data on individuals covered by the fiscal year rather than the calendar year. I move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill as to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
House Bill 141, State Government Commission on LGBTQIA plus Affairs, Alterations. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 makes a clarifying change relating to the duties of the Commission and expands the diversity category sought to be reflected in the membership of the committee.
Are you moving the amendment?
I move the amendments.
Okay. The question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. The question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Weak. Let's say that again. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 234, State Board of Chiropractic Examiners Disciplinary Actions. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 authorizes the board to grant a stay of enforcement of a board order in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 238, massage therapy, definition and discipline. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical, adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 strikes language from the bill that would have specified that practice massage therapy means to engage professionally with or without compensation in massage therapy, and authorizes the board, as in the previous amendment, to grant a stay of enforcement of a board order in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 245, minority business enterprise program, reporting, list of units. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 is technical and adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 alters a requirement for the receipt of certain minority business enterprise program reports by the Joint Committee on Fair Practices and State Personnel Oversight, and instead of requiring the Office of State Procurement to maintain a list of units required to comply with the state's MBE program, requires the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women's Business Affairs to include an attestation as to the accuracy of the list included in their annual aggregate reports on the MBE compliance and conduct an audit of the list every 3 years. I move the amendments, Madam Speaker.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 291, health occupations, clinical and graduate alcohol and drug counselors, licensure. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 302, Public Health Rare Disease Advisory Council. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing floor leader.
Madam Speaker, thank you. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors. Amendment number 2 adds to the council the chair of the State Advisory Council on Hereditary and Congenital Disorders and a representative of an organization that provides care management for individuals enrolled in the state's rare and expensive care management program. Strikes the requirement that council make recommendations related to the newborn screening program and requires the council to include patients with private health insurance when making recommendations related to prescription drug coverage for rare disease patients. Move the amendments.
The question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment has been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 340, Maryland Department of Health, 211, Maryland Oversight. Favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 351, Health Occupations, Licensed Direct Entry Midwives, previous cesarean section. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds co-sponsors. Amendment number 2 requires the patient inform consent to include information about alternatives to home birth after cesarean section. Move so much be considered the reading of the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendment. All in favor signify by saying aye. Weak. Opposed? The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. The question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. The favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 376, Health Insurance, Diagnostic, and Supplemental Examinations for Breast Cancer, Cost Sharing, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 615, Work Group on Black, Latino, Asian American, Pacific Islander, and other underrepresented behavioral health professionals, extension of dates, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Report of the Committee on Judiciary. Report number 3. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 3, Maryland State Police Gun Center, firearms surrendered under final protective orders, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the young lady from Harford County. Can you push your button so we can hear you?
Thank you. Will the floor leader rise for a couple questions?
Sure. Good morning.
Good morning. What I'm kind of curious about is there's a lot of information that is applied for that final protective order as far as if the guns are confiscated. And I think the concern that I have is that a lot of times the person that the protective order is issued against, sometimes they don't show up for the final protective order. And so my concern is that, you know, the police will come and confiscate the guns, and my concern is this kind of like a workaround for some type of red flag law that the person then would be totally prevented from ever getting a permit for a gun. In other words, the guns would be confiscated, and so they would really be not being able to ever be a police officer or ever carry a gun or ever for self-protection later on after the protective order had ended. So that's what I'm kind of concerned about, that there's no suggestion of an appellate process in the bill. So that's my kind of concern. You know, I realize that there's a protective order, final protective order, but the thing is that they didn't take advantage of appearing in court, and there's really no due process element in that for them to, one, get the property back ever, okay, or to be able to possibly get a permit later on to carry. You know, because we're assuming that it was legal, that they could carry. Maybe they were or they weren't, but the point is now they're totally, it's foreclosed. So that's my concern.
Thank you. I appreciate your concern. Do you have a question?
Well, I guess basically is basically under the bill. Can you get them back? One, two, after they go through this state police analysis, and the other part of it is that are they going to be barred from ever being able to get to be able to carry a firearm again? In other words, is it a flag that they shouldn't ever be allowed to have a gun when the protective order is terminated, and they can get the final protective order is terminated, and will they get their guns back?
Okay.
It's silent.
So the bill does nothing to the protective order process, nothing whatsoever. It doesn't address protective orders. It merely is a tracking mechanism that we already put in place. I guess that was last year. We put in place a tracking mechanism so that we can gather data. So we wanted the data to be able to see where firearms are surrendered pursuant to a final protective order. However, this bill does not amend or in any way change how one gets a final protective order or what is done by the courts with a final protective order.
Well, just a brief follow-up, though. But because there's so specific information in what the state police is cataloging, is that going to be next year's bill that you get the guy's name and his address and everything else? I'm just kind of wondering if this isn't the camel's nose under the tent. That's my concern.
I appreciate your question. However, my crystal ball is out of circulation. I can't tell you what's going to come next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Are there any amendments, additional amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 4, Criminal Law, Sexual Crimes, Repeal of Spousal Defense, favorable.
Floor leader. I'm sorry. I'm so. See, I'm in a hurry. Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 13, Hate Crimes, Civil Remedy, favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 14, Family Law, Grounds for Divorce, favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 127, District Court, Small Claims, Enforcement of Money Judgments, favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk, read next bill.
House Bill 129, Courts, Strategic Lawsuits Against Public Participation, favorable.
Question for the House is adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered, printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 131, Criminal Law, Unnatural or Perverted Sexual Practice, repeal, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Recognizing the minority whip.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A question for the floor leader, please.
Floor leader.
Certainly.
Good morning. Would you mind if I special order this to the appropriate time tomorrow for the purpose of an amendment?
Well, I mean, I suppose that's possible. Do you actually think you need to do that? We've had this bill many years in a row, and your good friend, former district mate, former Republican GOP gubernatorial nominee Dan Cox voted for this bill multiple times, so I think it's a good bill. But if you really want to, this thing passed 121 to 10 last year. You can do it one day.
Pretty please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Huh? What did you say? You have to make it an official request to do so.
I apologize. Madam Speaker, may I special order this bill to the appropriate time tomorrow for the purpose?
Yes.
I did say pretty please.
Yes.
Thank you.
Question for the House is special order HB 131 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 145, Maryland Police Training and Standards Commission, Police Officer Certification, Eligibility. Favorable amendments. Amendment number 1.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Move so much we consider the reading of the amendments.
So ordered.
Amendment number 1 adds sponsors and makes technical changes. Amendment number 2 adds the Army National Guard, Air National Guard, and Reserve component of U.S. Armed Forces as organizations for which a prospective police officer must be honorably discharged or a current member, and it changes the effective date to June 1, 2023. Move the amendments.
Question for the House is the adoption of the amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendments have been adopted. Question now is adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Madam.
The ayes have it. The amendment is adopted. Question now is the adoption of the favorable report as amended. All in favor signify by saying opposed. Nay. The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any additional amendments to the bill or to its title?
Madam
Gentleman,
Speaker.
I was about to call on you. Recognizing the gentleman from Anne Arundel.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the floor leader please rise for a couple quick questions?
Floor leader.
Still, certainly. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. It looks like a good bill, but can you just tell me what exactly the bill changes?
Sure. So colleagues from last term might recognize this bill as one that would allow law enforcement agencies in Maryland to hire non-citizens who have been honorably discharged from the armed services. The bill last year, as we passed it, had a provision in there that said the officer had to be applying for citizenship somewhere in the process, and that if somehow their citizenship application were denied, they were to be decertified as a law enforcement officer. So it was the thought that this puts too much of a cloud on a prospective employer hiring an officer that might later be decertified, and it's part of a process for who knows how long it's going to take. And for this particular set of folks, the assumption is these are folks who are seeking citizenship. They have sworn an oath to the Constitution and did in fact defend our country and are otherwise meeting all of the qualifications of a law enforcement officer: mental health check, agility, criminal background check. They're lawfully here, so we're not talking about people with an unlawful presence. So that's what this would do. We're taking away the citizenship requirement, again, not because we don't care for these folks to become citizens, but because it seems it's an unnecessary cloud on their employment prospects at a time when many of the law enforcement agencies in this state are having hiring challenges. If it makes you feel a little bit better, this is not, Maryland would not be alone in this. There are multiple states that do this: Tennessee, West Virginia, Colorado, Vermont, and half a dozen others.
Do you mind if we special order for the appropriate time tomorrow so I can take a better look at the states and what's happening there?
Sure, why not?
Question
Thank
for
you.
the House is special order HB 145 to the appropriate time tomorrow. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The bill has been special ordered. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 173, drug paraphernalia for administration, decriminalization, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 232, child in need of assistance, neglect cannabis use, favorable.
Question before the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 394, Maryland Tort Claims Act, denial of claims, notice, favorable.
Question for the House is the adoption of the favorable report. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Hearing none, the bill is ordered printed for third reading. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There are 136 members present. The House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 4. Clerk will read the first bill.
House Bill 159, Criminal Procedure, Warrantless Arrest, Straw Purchase Participant.
House Bill 159 is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 114 in the favorable, in the affirmative, 20 in the negative. And having received a constitutional majority, HB 159 is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
House Bill 215, Real Property, Limitations on Summoning Law Enforcement or Emergency Services, Prohibition.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 97 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 215, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. That ends the work at the desk.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, we are in the thick of it now. My friend from the Eastern Shore is up, our friend from Calvert County, the Minority Whip. Just a reminder, if you requested a special order on a bill for purposes of an amendment, you need to get that request to the amendment office as soon as possible, as in the day you make the special order. They need time to get the amendment right to do what it is you want them to do. So just a friendly reminder, be considerate of our colleagues in the amendment office and get them the request as soon as possible. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And of course, the chairs would like to remind you to show them to the committee chairs as well, ahead of bringing them on the floor. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. Committee announcements. Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Appropriations Committee will meet for bill hearings at 1 o'clock, and we will also vote on one bill. Thank you.
Judiciary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the House Judiciary Committee will be meeting at 1 o'clock today for bill hearings.
Environment and Transportation.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Environment and Transportation Committee will continue public hearings at 1 p.m.
Ways and Means.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Ways and Means Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for bill hearings.
Economic Matters.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The House Economic Matters Committee will continue its hearings at 1 p.m.
Health and Government Operations.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Health and Government Operations Committee will meet at 1 p.m. for hearings.
Any subcommittee announcements? Natural Resources.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Natural Resources Subcommittee will meet immediately after ENT public hearings.
Any other subcommittee? Where are you? Local Revenues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Local Revenues Subcommittee of Ways and Means will meet at 11:45. Please note the time change. We're pushing back from 11:30 to 11:45, and that will be by Zoom.
Any other subcommittee? Chair of the committee.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Insurance Subcommittee will meet immediately after session. Thank you so much.
Any other subcommittee? Oh, Public Health. I see you back there.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Public Health Subcommittee, Public Health and Minority Disparities Subcommittee will meet 15 minutes after floor on Zoom.
Any other subcommittee? Vote change.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On House Bill 159 from red to green.
Gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County Affairs will meet by Zoom tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
Any other delegation announcements? Okay. Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Prince George's County Prince George's County Education Subcommittee will meet tomorrow morning by Zoom at 9 a.m. 2 votes. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay. I see no one else getting up. Any caucus announcements? Legislative Black Caucus.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise to invite every single member of our body to a very special event taking place tonight. It is MBE Night, where hundreds of Black businesses and Black business leaders will be gathered at the West End starting at 5 p.m. to meet us and also to learn about various state resources to help support their businesses. It's hosted by MBE in Annapolis. All members are invited, and I particularly would like to encourage members of Legislative Black Caucus to be in attendance this evening. Reception starts at 5 p.m. and program is at 6. Thank you. At the West End.
Yes. Latino Caucus.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, the Maryland Legislative Latino Caucus has its meeting tomorrow via Zoom, 8:45, where we will have the Montgomery County and Prince George's County executives to talk and to answer your questions. 8:45 via Zoom tomorrow.
Any other caucus announcements? Okay. Black History Moment. Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. They say you can tell a lot about a person by their shoes. Mr. James Jimmy Edward Chambers was a bootblack, also known as a shoe shiner or a shoe black. Mr. Chambers was born here in Annapolis on August 10th, 1917. He was one of 3 children born to Carrie Chambers, a woman who lived to 106 years old. Mr. Chambers attended Stanton Elementary School, important to Annapolis history because it was the designated color school for the city of Annapolis and became the location of Anne Arundel County's first Black high school in 1919, sharing the space with the elementary school. A tap dancer, and according to his nieces, real flashy and a ladies' man. Mr. Chambers began shining shoes at 14 years old, a suggestion by a social worker given his challenge of being in and out of work. He suffered from epilepsy. In his humble beginnings as a bootblack, Mr. Chambers started out with a black wooden half box he found in the street that he carried his bootblack supplies in. He earned anywhere from $3 to $7 a week, or about 35 cents per shine. Sorry about that. Mr. Chambers' luck would change, as well as history, when in 1953 he set up his stand on the ground level of the State House. Just about every governor since Millard Tall stopped by the stand to chat and to get their shoes shined, with the exception of Governors Agnew and Donald Schaefer. Mr. Chambers' hours of operation during legislative sessions and during interims was 7:30 a.m. sharp until 12 p.m. or when floor session ended. It was said that he often did not remember anyone's names or who came by the stand, but he did keep a drawer full of Maryland General Assembly directories and rosters. Speaker Bush said that he, as well as other veterans legislators, would always get their shoes polished the first day of every regular session for good luck. The stand became a regular place for them to converse before heading to the floor. President Miller said that Mr. Chalmers would carry a diamond ring in his wallet to propose to women who would sit in his chair to get their shoes shined. Smooth. Mr. Chalmers was affectionately loved by members of both chambers and parties and greeted everyone warmly, always wearing a smile. He was known to be a sharp dresser, especially on the weekends, frequently going to Baltimore to shop. He was known as a shopaholic. At 81, Mr. Chalmers retired after half of a century working at the State House and in 2004 passed away. His stand, as many of you know, remained empty as a memorial to him until 2008, when the ExecuShine Hospitality Service, LLC, decided to take over the stand and continue Mr. Chalmers' work. So history tells us that a bootblack, or a street black, was a job born out of the streets of Paris in Europe in the early 1800s, when streets were covered with excrement and dirt. Young boys would offer services to clean up the dirty shoes. When sewer systems were introduced in many of the cities throughout Europe, the job transitioned to just cleaning and waxing shoes. Boot blacking in America was traditionally provided on busy urban streets, corners, barbershops, hotels, and newspaper stands, and gambling houses. The job entails cleaning and buffing shoes, then applying a waxy thin paste to create a shiny appearance and protective coating. The job was typically performed by young boys as a way to make money for family or provide money for the family if the father of the family was deceased or absent. For black boys and black men, it was one of few viable options for work after enslavement ended and when Jim Crow began trampling much of the South. Boot blacking since then has been known as an honorable entrepreneurial profession, one that today has more customers than actual professionalized boot blacks. Interestingly enough, many notable famous individuals started off as boot blacks. For instance, the godfather of soul, James Brown, shined shoes on 9th Street in Augusta, Georgia, and civil rights activist Malcolm X shined shoes at the Lindy Hop nightclub in New York City. It is said that life is a road and shoes are cars. Shine them up right and they'll drive you places. I can only imagine that Mr. Chalmers never thought that he would shine shine shoes that morning back in 1953, carrying his half-wooden box, black box, along with his hustle and entrepreneurial spirit, that his shoes would drive him to the State House for half a century, working in a centuries-old occupation, in a centuries-old building, among the body of individuals working through century-old governmental structure. What a way to shine. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the State House Archives, ExecuShine, Hospitality Services, my legislative director, Leslie Chambers, and every media outlet that ever took the time to tell Mr. Chalmers' story. Thank you.
Personal guest announcements. Recognizing the gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And today from Easton, I get the pleasure of introducing our doctor of the day, Dr. Roger Orsini, retired plastic and reconstructive surgeon from Easton. He's also with MedChi on their legislative council and their subcommittee on health insurance. Please welcome our doctor of the day, Dr. Roger Orsini.
Any other? Yes, gentlelady from Montgomery.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of Montgomery County delegation members, I want to welcome Interfaith Works to the General Assembly. I believe some of them are still in the, yes, there they are, hello. And for folks who don't know, Interfaith Works is a 501c3 nonprofit that meets people where they are regardless of their challenges. They provide emergency shelter, supportive housing, essential needs, and employment services to over 35,000 residents of Montgomery County every year. Their mission is to support neighbors by providing vital services and a pathway to greater stability. Their clients and residents are served by over 150 trained and professional staff members, as well as 7,000 volunteers annually. They also advocate for policies and programs that enhance the stability and opportunities of our neighbors, and that's what they're doing here today. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Okay, gentleman from the Eastern Shore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the Delmarva Chicken Association, I want to remind everybody that it's Chicken Day in Annapolis. We are celebrating from 11 to 1 with a delicious lunch at the Calvert House. Please come and join us.
Gentlelady from Prince George's.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I just want to let you all know my young adults is joining us today. Jeffrey and Dejanay, can you stand up and wave your hands? Thank you.
Gentlelady.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was supposed to do this yesterday, so I would ask the body to blame my age and not my heart. But I do have the honor of recognizing my teammate, the Majority Whip, on his young birthday that he just celebrated this weekend. So for all who did not know, please wish permission to use the delegate's name.
Permission granted.
Thank you. Please wish Delegate Jazz Lewis a belated happy birthday.
Gentleman
Speaker.
from Prince George.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to recognize my cousin, ask somebody to welcome Miss Pamelia Moore. She's the president of the Calvary chapter of Omega Pi Omega, here for AKA Day. Thank you.
Gentleman from Baltimore City.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'd like to join in celebrating the first and finest ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm very familiar with them in the district. We have the Psi-Phi Omega chapter, and they do a lot of great work, numerous projects in our neighborhoods. One of our chapter presidents is Miss Rita Cruz for Bella Edison Community Association. She's one of my favorite AKAs. But also I want to recognize my Chief of Staff, Miss Kirsten Duggar, from 2009 chapter of the Mu Phi chapter of Salisbury State University, and her mother. Oh, hold on. I got one more. And her mother, Miss Michelle Causey, who is from the Theta Pi chapter from UNC Chapel Hill of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. So thank you, Madam Speaker.
Any other personal or yes, gentle lady from Georgia?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to use the delegates' names.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of Delegate Ann Healy, newest delegate Ashanti Martinez, and myself, I want to welcome, who was with us in the gallery earlier, but they had to go get lunch, the students from Parkdale High School in Prince George's County in District 22. Various students from their student government board was here watching us here on the House floor this morning. So if you see them walking around, just give them a hearty welcome. Thank you.
Okay. Quorum call before adjournment.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 136 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stands adjourned until Wednesday, March 1st at 10 a.m., Legislative Day, February 26th.